Okay, this is the worksheet called A Page of Lines that you received today. Now, these are all straight lines here, and we're going to work out the equation of all of these straight lines. Now, the general equation of a straight line is y equals mx plus b, where this m here is the gradient. So remember, we've been looking at the coefficient of the x, or the number in front of the x, and that describes the gradient, and b is the constant term. Notice that there's no x there. That constant term, b, is the y-intercept, okay? So y equals mx plus b, so all equations can be written in this format. So for each of these, so the gradient is m, and the y-intercept is b. So for each of these equations here, we're going to work out the gradient and the y-intercept. And when we work out the gradient and the y-intercept, we can then write the equation of each line. So I'm going to zoom in on this first question here, or the first two. Okay, now when you're trying to work out the y-intercept, you have to see where this line cuts the y-axis, and to me it looks like it cuts the y-axis at 6. So the y-intercept is 6. So the y-intercept, which is b, we call the y-intercept b, okay? That y-intercept b is 6. And the gradient, now the way we find gradient is rise over run. So what we do to find the gradient or the rise over run, we look at any 2 points that we can see clearly on the line. Now, the way we know that we can see a point clearly is you'll see the intersection of the grid lines. Okay, so here, if I look here, there's no intersection of grid lines. If I look here, there's no intersection of grid lines. But here, at this point here, you can see that the line cuts through the intersection of grid lines. Also, the point here, the line, this point on the line also is on the intersection of grid lines, and so is this point. Okay, there'd also be other points further down here. Maybe this one here is also sitting at the intersection of a grid line, whereas this one's not. I can't see 2 crossing lines pass through that bit of the line. So what I do to work out the gradient, it's rise over run. Now, I like you to do it in this order. I want you to rise first and then run next. So let's say I choose these as my 2 points that I can see clearly. To rise, so you choose 2 points. To rise, you must start from the bottom and go up. So I'm going to rise from this point. So I rise up 3. So my rise is 3 and up is considered positive. And I'm going to run across to the right. So up is positive, running across to the right 1 is positive as well. So rise 3, run 1. So 3 over 1 is 3. So therefore, the equation of this line, my m is 3, my gradient, and my b, my y-intercept, is 6. So I replace the m with a 3 and the b with a 6. So therefore, the equation of this line is y equals 3x plus 6. Now we know that where the graph cuts the y-axis, that's your constant term, plus 6. And here we're looking at the gradient of the line. Okay, now, not everyone will choose the same 2 points to do the gradient. We could have chosen this point down here and that point up there. And if I did do that, another way I could have done this gradient is, let's say I chose this point and that point. Well, I have to rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then across 2. See, up is positive, to the right is positive. So I could have done gradient is 6 over 2, which also happens to be 3. So it doesn't matter if you choose different points to someone else, as long as you're starting at the bottom point and going up to a higher point and doing rise over run, it's okay. So let's look at this next equation. Let's look at the y-intercept first. There it is, it's at -2. So y-intercept b is -2. Now I want to do my gradient. Gradient will be rise over run. So pick any 2 points that you can see clearly. Well, I can see this point clearly. I can see this one clearly. I can see this one up here clearly because it's on the intersection of grid lines. So it doesn't matter which ones you choose. I'm going to choose this one and let's say this one up here. So how do I get from the bottom point to the top point? Always start at the bottom, we rise. So go rise 1, 2, 3, 4. You rise until you're level with it, and then I'm running 1, 2. So my rise is 4 and my run is 2. Now I'm going up, that's positive 4, and I'm going to the right, that's a positive 2 run. So 4 over 2 is 2. So for this equation, m, my gradient, is 2 and my y-intercept is negative 2. So my equation is y equals mx plus b, but my m is 2, so it's 2x, and my y-intercept b is negative 2. So it's y equals 2x minus 2. Okay, I'll do another one here. Looking at this line, I can see it's got a negative gradient. Where is my y-intercept? Well, it cuts through the origin at 0. So the b is 0, the y-intercept is 0. Now let's look at the gradient. I can see I've got a negative gradient, but I have to find 2 points on the line that I can read really clearly. So m is, again, rise over run. I'll just write it out again. So it's rise over run, which equals, now pick 2 points that you can see clearly. Well, I can see this point really clearly. I can see this point really clearly. It's on the intersection. This is not on an intersection. Look, that one I can see clearly, but sometimes it's nice to have them further apart. So this point is lower down than this one. So I start from here and I'm going to rise. I rise up 1, 2. So when you rise, that's always positive. So I'm going up 2. But now I'm running backwards. Backwards 1, 2, 3, 4. See, towards the left is backwards, whereas all of these runs over here were forward. So it's rise up 2, which is up is positive, but I'm running back 1, 2, 3, 4. So my run is negative 4. So on your calculator, or however else you want to do it, 2 over negative 4 is actually negative a half. So therefore the gradient, and we can see the gradient of this line is negative, and we can see it's not very steep as well. So therefore the equation of this line, we know that it's of the format y equals mx plus b. My m is negative a half x, and my b is 0, so I write plus 0, or I don't have to put anything. Plus 0. In other words, it's y equals a negative a half x. So that's the equation of that line. I'll just do a couple more, or you can pause the video, try them on your own, and then just check them. Okay? Again here, let's look for the y-intercept. I can see it there. B is negative 3. And now let's do the gradient. Now I need to be able to see points that I can see really clearly. Well, I can see this one clearly. I can see that. Look, there's lots of others that you could choose. So starting at this bottom point, how do I get to this top point? Please rise first. Gradient is rise over run. So I want you rising first. You rise up 1, up 2, up 3. Now running backwards. Well, I'm going backwards now to the left. Backwards 1, 2, 3. So that's negative 3. This is rising up 3, running backwards negative 3. 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. So the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. So the gradient is negative 1. So it's y equals negative 1x, or negative x. And the y-intercept here is negative 3. So it's negative 1x minus 3, or you can just write negative x minus 3. So that equation is y equals negative x minus 3. 5 and 6, and then you can do 7 to 12 later. Having a look at this equation, the y-intercept, that's the y-axis, y-intercept is 1. And the gradient is rise over run. I'm going to choose 2 points. Any 2 points, doesn't matter. Let's choose this one. I could choose that, or I could choose this. Look, I'm going to choose that one up there. Okay? So from the bottom point, rise up 1, 2. So I'm rising up 2, and I'm running forward, not backwards. So I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 2 over 4 is my gradient. Now you should always simplify it. 2 over 4 is a half. So therefore my equation is y equals mx plus b. So it's a half x plus my b is 1. And my last equation, we can see we've got a negative gradient. We can see it's quite steep as well. Let's see, what's our y-intercept? It's down here at negative 4, so b is negative 4. The gradient is rise over run. Let's choose our 2 points. There's the bottom point. I can see that sits on a intersection of the grid quite easily. And this point's quite easy to see. It's right sitting there on negative 1. So how do I get from the bottom point to the top point? I rise up 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's up up 4, which is positive. See, if you rise, it's always positive, okay? But now, am I running forwards or backwards? If I run forwards, I go this way. No, I have to run back 1 square. So it's running backwards -1. So 4 divided by -1 is -4. So therefore, the equation of my line, y equals mx plus b, it's -4x, and my b is -4. So -4x minus 4. Okay, so if you could please complete these others, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on your own for homework.